Hello and welcome to Origins History. Tonight, we leave behind the familiar worlds of ancient Greece and Rome and travel much farther into the past to a civilization that flourished thousands of years before the Parthenon crowned the hills of Athens or Roman legions marched across Europe. Our journey begins on the beautiful island of Crete, resting quietly in the heart of the Mediterranean Sea. Even today, Crete is a land of rugged mountains, fertile valleys, hidden caves, and endless blue coastlines. Gentle waves break against rocky shores, olive trees blanket the hillsides, and warm sea breezes carry the scent of wild herbs across the landscape. But more than 4,000 years ago, this peaceful island was home to something extraordinary. Here stood Europe's first great civilization. Long before philosophers debated in Athens, long before the Roman Empire existed, long before history was carefully written on parchment, the people of Crete built magnificent palaces, mastered the sea, traded with kingdoms across the Mediterranean, and created some of the most beautiful art the ancient world had ever seen. Today we call them the Minoans. Curiously, that was almost certainly not the name they used for themselves. Their true name has disappeared into history. Their language remains unread. Even after more than a century of archaeological research, we still cannot hear their own voices. Instead, we know them through the cities they built, the artwork they left behind, and the myths that survived long after their civilization had vanished. For nearly 3,000 years, almost everything about these remarkable people was forgotten. No one remembered their kings. No one remembered their queens. Their great palaces crumbled into silent hills covered with grass and olive trees. The names of their gods disappeared. Their language became an unsolved mystery. Their achievements faded so completely that only a single dark legend remained alive. It was the legend of the Minotaur. Generations of Greek storytellers spoke of a terrifying creature imprisoned inside an endless labyrinth beneath the palace of King Minos, a monster with the body of a man and the head of a bull. It was said that brave young Athenians were sent into the maze as sacrifices where none ever returned, until one hero changed everything. His name was Theseus. Guided only by a sword and a simple thread given to him by Princess Ariadne, he entered the endless corridors, found the monster deep within the darkness, defeated it, and escaped from the labyrinth alive. For centuries, educated people believed this story was nothing more than mythology, an entertaining tale, a heroic adventure, nothing more. But history has a curious habit. Sometimes, the oldest legends hide fragments of forgotten truth. As archaeologists would eventually discover, beneath the quiet fields of Crete lay the remains of a palace so vast, so complicated, and so confusing that visitors could easily lose their way inside. Its endless corridors, its twisting staircases, its hundreds of rooms, all seemed strangely familiar. Could the legendary labyrinth have been inspired by a real place? It was an astonishing possibility. Yet the deeper researchers looked, the more extraordinary the mystery became. This civilization did not resemble the violent kingdoms surrounding it. Unlike the Egyptians, unlike the Hittites, unlike the later Mycenaean Greeks, the Minoans built enormous palaces without towering defensive walls. Instead of celebrating conquest and war, their artists filled walls with dolphins, lilies, birds, playful children, and graceful ceremonies. Instead of carving scenes of defeated enemies, they painted beauty. Instead of glorifying battle, they celebrated life. It was almost as if they believed harmony could be stronger than fear. Their ships crossed the Mediterranean carrying olive oil, wine, fine pottery, precious metals, and beautiful handcrafted treasures. Their merchants visited Egypt, the Near East, Cyprus, and distant islands across the Aegean Sea. For centuries, the Minoans became the masters of maritime trade. Their influence reached nearly every corner of the eastern Mediterranean. Their prosperity seemed endless, their confidence unshakable. Yet every civilization, no matter how magnificent, eventually reaches a turning point. Sometimes that turning point arrives in the form of war, sometimes it comes through disease, and sometimes nature itself becomes the greatest enemy. Far to the north of Crete stood a beautiful volcanic island that appeared peaceful to anyone who looked upon it. Its white cliffs rose above the sea, its towns prospered, its people lived ordinary lives. But deep beneath the surface, unimaginable forces were gathering. One day the earth would erupt with such violence that it would change the history of the Mediterranean forever. Entire cities would disappear beneath volcanic ash. Massive waves would race across the sea, trade routes would collapse, and one of Europe's greatest civilizations would begin its slow journey towards extinction. But before we witness their decline, we must first understand who these remarkable people truly were. Who built the magnificent Palace of Knossos? What kind of society could create such breathtaking art while much of the ancient world prepared constantly for war? Who were the mysterious women shown again and again in positions of religious authority? Why were bulls so important to their beliefs? And why does their language remain one of archaeology's greatest unsolved mysteries? Tonight we begin that journey, not through myth alone, but through archaeology, history, and the quiet clues left beneath thousands of years of Earth. So allow the modern world to slowly fade away. Imagine the gentle sound of waves washing against ancient stone harbors. Picture elegant ships drifting across calm blue waters beneath a warm Mediterranean sunrise. Listen to distant seabirds circling above the cliffs of Crete, because our journey into Europe's first great civilization is only just beginning.
For thousands of years, the great civilization of Crete slept beneath the earth. The magnificent palaces had collapsed into silent ruins. Their colorful walls had faded beneath layers of dust and fallen stone. Olive trees stretched their roots through abandoned courtyards. Wild grasses covered ancient roads where kings, priests, merchants, and craftsmen had once walked. Generation after generation passed without realizing that an entire civilization rested quietly beneath their feet. The myths survived, the people did not. Travelers visited Crete and admired its mountains, fertile valleys, and beautiful coastline, but no one truly understood what had once stood there. The Palace of Knossos existed only as a legend. Most educated Europeans believed the story of King Minos and the labyrinth belonged entirely to mythology. Very few imagined that history and legend might be connected. Everything began to change during the late 19th century. Across Europe, archaeology was entering a remarkable new age. Ancient cities that had existed only in books were suddenly being uncovered beneath the soil. Egypt revealed forgotten temples. Mesopotamia uncovered buried kingdoms. The ancient city of Troy had already astonished the world. People realized that legends sometimes preserved real memories from the distant past. Among those fascinated by these discoveries was an English scholar named Sir Arthur Evans. Unlike many treasure hunters of his time, Evans was not searching for gold. He was searching for knowledge. As the keeper of the Ashmolean Museum at Oxford University, he devoted his life to understanding forgotten civilizations. His greatest fascination was not a lost palace, it was a lost language. While visiting Greece, Evans repeatedly noticed small carved seal stones being sold in village markets. Local people often wore them as lucky charms. To most buyers, they were beautiful antiques. To Evans, they were something much more important. The tiny stones were covered with strange symbols, unlike any writing he had ever seen. They were not Egyptian hieroglyphs. They were not Phoenician letters. They were not Greek. Someone, long ago, had written in a completely unknown script. The mystery consumed him. Every new seal stone seemed to point toward one destination: Crete. He traveled across the island like a detective following scattered clues. He visited villages. He spoke with local families. He carefully purchased more engraved stones whenever he found them. Again and again, the trail led toward a modest hill just outside the modern city of Heraklion. The locals called it Kefala Hill. At first glance, it appeared entirely ordinary. Olive trees covered its slopes. Loose stones lay scattered across the ground. Nothing suggested that one of Europe's greatest archaeological discoveries rested beneath it. Yet, Evans believed otherwise. Others had suspected the same location before him. Even Heinrich Schliemann, the famous discoverer of Troy, had hoped to excavate the site. Political complications and disagreements over land ownership had prevented him from doing so. Evans proved far more patient. Using his own personal wealth, he negotiated with local landowners until he finally purchased nearly the entire hill. It was an enormous financial risk. There was no guarantee he would find anything. Months of work could easily reveal nothing more than ordinary ruins. Still, he believed the evidence. In the spring of 1900, excavation finally began. More than 100 local workers arrived carrying picks, shovels, baskets, and determination. The Mediterranean sun climbed steadily into the sky. Dust filled the warm air as the first layers of soil were carefully removed. At first, progress seemed disappointingly slow. Workers uncovered only scattered stone walls. Large blocks of carefully cut limestone appeared beneath the earth. The walls suggested a substantial building, but no one yet knew what kind of building it had been. A fortress? A temple? A palace? Days passed, the mystery remained. Then, everything changed. One worker struck something unexpectedly soft instead of solid stone. The excavation immediately slowed. The surrounding earth was removed with extraordinary care. Gradually, a patch of brilliant color emerged from the dirt. Bright red, deep blue, rich black. The colors looked almost impossible. They seemed freshly painted despite remaining buried for more than 3,000 years. As more soil disappeared, an elegant human figure slowly appeared. A young man. Long black hair flowed behind his shoulders. His posture was calm and graceful. In his hands, he carried a beautifully shaped ceremonial vessel. Today, archaeologists know this artwork as the Cup-Bearer fresco. For Arthur Evans, it was an unforgettable moment. He instantly understood that this was no ordinary ancient settlement. Only a highly sophisticated civilization could create art of such confidence and beauty. The discovery transformed the entire excavation. Workers expanded their trenches with renewed excitement. Every day revealed something astonishing. Beautiful painted walls, stone staircases, carved pillars, large halls connected by winding corridors. Then came another extraordinary discovery. Hidden within the growing ruins was a small ceremonial chamber, unlike anything Evans had expected. Along one wall stood elegant stone benches. In the center rested a magnificent throne carved from a single block of gypsum. It was surprisingly simple. No gold, no jewels, no elaborate decoration, yet it possessed a quiet authority impossible to ignore. The walls surrounding it were decorated with graceful griffins, mythical creatures combining the strength of lions with the wings of eagles. Palm trees and flowering plants completed the peaceful scene. The room felt almost sacred. Standing there, Arthur Evans believed he had found the legendary throne room of King Minos himself. Whether that conclusion was entirely correct remains debated today, but there was no doubt about one thing: an extraordinary civilization had existed here. As excavations continued, another mysterious symbol appeared again and again. Carved on walls, engraved on stones, painted throughout the palace. It was the image of a double-headed axe. The ancient symbol fascinated Evans. In Greek tradition, the double axe was called the labrys. Evans proposed a remarkable idea. Perhaps the word labyrinth originally meant not an endless maze, but the house of the double axe. If true, the famous labyrinth of Greek mythology may have been inspired by this very palace, not because a monster lived inside, but because the building itself was unimaginably large, complex, and confusing. Its endless rooms, its twisting staircases, its narrow corridors could easily overwhelm anyone unfamiliar with its design. Little by little, the ancient myth began to resemble forgotten history. Each new discovery blurred the line between legend and reality. Arthur Evans had arrived in Crete searching for a lost language. Instead, he uncovered an entire civilization. And this was only the beginning. The greatest discovery still lay hidden beneath the earth. In the seasons ahead, the palace would continue to reveal magnificent frescoes, advanced engineering, mysterious religious symbols, and thousands of clues about a people whose voices had been silent for over 3 millennia. The forgotten world of the Minoans was finally awakening once again.
As the weeks of excavation turned into months, Arthur Evans and his team slowly realized they had uncovered far more than a royal residence. Every new trench revealed another corridor. Every staircase led to yet another level. Every doorway opened into additional rooms whose purpose had long been forgotten. What first appeared to be a single building soon revealed itself as an enormous architectural masterpiece unlike anything Europe had ever seen. The Palace of Knossos covered nearly 6 acres. For the Bronze Age, it was an astonishing achievement. Instead of being built as one massive rectangular structure, the palace grew organically over generations, expanding into a maze of interconnected spaces. From above, it resembled a small city rather than a palace. Long hallways twisted unexpectedly around corners, grand staircases climbed upward before descending into lower chambers. Balconies overlooked open courtyards. Narrow passages connected workshops, storage rooms, shrines, and private apartments. Even today, visitors often find themselves disoriented while walking through its remains. 3,000 years ago, when every room still stood beneath colorful painted walls and wooden ceilings, becoming lost inside would have been remarkably easy. It suddenly became understandable why later generations imagined a labyrinth hidden beneath the palace of King Minos. The myth no longer seemed impossible. At the very center of Knossos lay a vast rectangular courtyard. This open space formed the heart of palace life. Nearly every major section of the complex connected to it in some way. During religious festivals, thousands of people may have gathered here. Priests and priestesses likely performed sacred ceremonies before crowds of spectators. Merchants, officials, musicians, and noble families probably crossed this courtyard every day. It was the beating heart of Minoan society. Surrounding the court stretched an astonishing network of more than 1,000 rooms. Some served practical purposes, others remained complete mysteries. There were elegant reception halls where guests were welcomed. Private living quarters overlooked peaceful gardens. Storage rooms stretched in long rows beneath the palace, filled with enormous clay jars capable of holding olive oil, wine, grain, and honey. Elsewhere, workshops echoed with the sounds of skilled craftsmen. Potters shaped delicate vessels upon spinning wheels. Bronze workers forged tools and ceremonial objects. Stone carvers polished precious materials brought from distant lands. Jewelers transformed gold into necklaces, rings, and intricate ornaments worn by the island's elite. The palace functioned as far more than a royal home. It was the political center, the religious center, the economic center, and the administrative heart of an entire civilization. Perhaps the most remarkable feature of Knossos was its engineering. While much of the Bronze Age Europe still relied upon simple wooden structures, the Minoans designed buildings that displayed an extraordinary understanding of architecture. Massive staircases connected several floors. Strong wooden beams reinforced stone walls, allowing buildings to better survive earthquakes that frequently shook the island. Large windows welcomed sunlight into interior rooms. Ingenious light wells carried fresh air deep inside the palace, keeping even lower chambers bright and comfortable. Instead of feeling dark and enclosed, many rooms were surprisingly open. Natural light filled the corridors. Fresh Mediterranean breezes flowed through carefully designed openings. The palace felt alive. Equally impressive was its water system. Clay pipes carried clean water throughout parts of the complex. Separate drainage channels removed wastewater beneath the floors. Some private apartments even contained flushing toilets connected to underground plumbing. These innovations would not become common in many parts of Europe again for thousands of years. The Minoans were clearly engineers as well as artists. Arthur Evans was astonished. The civilization emerging from beneath the earth appeared far more advanced than anyone had imagined. The deeper the excavations reached, the more evidence appeared of a highly organized government. Hundreds of enormous storage jars, known today as pithoi, stood in long rows inside special magazines. Some were taller than an adult person. Each could store hundreds of gallons of valuable supplies: olive oil, wine, grain, dried fruits. These products represented the wealth of the kingdom. Officials carefully measured and recorded every shipment entering or leaving the palace. Nothing suggests disorder. Everything points towards careful planning and efficient administration. The palace was in many ways the headquarters of a thriving economy. Unlike the castles built in later centuries, Knossos was not designed primarily for defense. This remains one of the greatest mysteries of the Minoan world. There were no towering stone walls surrounding the palace, no deep defensive moats, no massive gates prepared for long military sieges. Almost every great civilization of the Bronze Age surrounded its most important cities with powerful fortifications. The Egyptians defended strategic settlements. The Hittites built enormous walls around their capitals. Later, the Mycenaean Greeks would construct gigantic fortresses whose stone blocks became known as Cyclopean walls. Yet Knossos stood almost completely open. It welcomed visitors instead of intimidating them. For many historians, this remarkable confidence suggests that the Minoans believed their greatest protection did not stand on land, it sailed upon the sea. Their powerful navy controlled the waters surrounding Crete. Enemy armies would have struggled even to reach the island. Instead of investing enormous resources in defensive walls, the Minoans invested in ships, commerce, art, and architecture. It was a very different vision of power. Rather than hiding behind stone, they ruled through trade and maritime dominance. The palace reflected that philosophy perfectly. Beauty surrounded everyday life. Walls once covered with brilliant frescoes celebrated flowers, dolphins, birds, and ceremonial processions. Grace replaced intimidation. Color replaced cold military strength. The atmosphere must have felt remarkably different from the grim fortresses that dominated much of the ancient world. Standing within these sunlit halls, it becomes difficult to imagine soldiers preparing for battle. Instead, one pictures musicians playing during festivals, craftsmen perfecting their work, priestesses leading sacred ceremonies, children running across open courtyards, and merchants arriving from distant lands carrying exotic goods. Knossos was not merely a palace, it was a living city, a center of culture, a symbol of prosperity, a place where administration, religion, commerce, and daily life blended together beneath one magnificent roof. Yet for all its beauty, one question continued to puzzle Arthur Evans. Who were the people who lived here? What kind of civilization created such elegance while leaving behind almost no written history that modern scholars could understand? The answer would begin to appear not in stone walls, but upon them, because hidden beneath layers of fallen plaster were paintings so vibrant and so full of life that they would completely transform the world's understanding of the mysterious people we now call the Minoans.
If the towering halls of Knossos revealed the brilliance of Minoan architecture, its walls revealed something even more extraordinary. They revealed the soul of an entire civilization. As Arthur Evans carefully uncovered room after room, fragments of brightly painted plaster began appearing everywhere beneath the collapsed roofs. At first, they looked like scattered pieces of a broken puzzle. A patch of vivid blue, a graceful human hand, the wing of a bird, a curling strand of black hair. But as conservators patiently assembled hundreds of fragile fragments, remarkable scenes slowly returned to life. It was as though the people of Bronze Age Crete had reached across 3,000 years to introduce themselves. Their world was unlike anything archaeologists had expected. Most ancient civilizations celebrated power through images of war. Egyptian temples honored victorious pharaohs. Assyrian palaces displayed kings hunting lions and crushing enemies beneath their armies. Later Greek kingdoms celebrated warriors and heroic battles. The Minoans chose something entirely different. Their walls celebrated life. Flowers bloomed across palace corridors. Lilies stretched toward bright blue skies. Olive branches swayed gently in the breeze. Birds rested among colorful plants. Fish swam through crystal-clear waters. Playful dolphins leaped across entire rooms. Nature was not simply decoration, it was woven into every aspect of Minoan life. Perhaps no artwork captures this joyful spirit better than the famous dolphin fresco. Discovered inside what Evans called the Queen's Megaron, the painting transforms an ordinary room into an underwater paradise. Elegant blue dolphins glide effortlessly through the sea. Tiny fish scatter beneath them. Sea urchins cling to the rocks below. Everything flows with graceful movement. Nothing feels rigid or forced. Unlike many ancient artists who preferred formal poses and strict symmetry, Minoan painters captured life in motion. Their dolphins seem almost alive. One can easily imagine watching them leap through the clear Mediterranean waters surrounding Crete. The painting reflects a civilization deeply connected to the sea. For the Minoans, the ocean was not a frightening barrier. It was their highway, their marketplace, their protector, their greatest source of prosperity. Another remarkable fresco decorated one of the palace's ceremonial entrances. Today, it is known simply as the procession fresco. Here, beautifully dressed young men walk in an elegant line, carrying ceremonial vessels toward an unseen destination. Their long black hair curls neatly over their shoulders. Their clothing is colorful and carefully crafted. Their movements appear calm and dignified. There is no rushing, no violence, only quiet ceremony. At the front of the procession walks the famous cupbearer. Holding an elaborate ritual vessel, he appears confident yet humble. His youthful face has become one of the most recognizable images from the ancient world. His expression feels surprisingly modern. Looking at him today, it is easy to forget that more than 35 centuries separate his world from our own. Elsewhere within the palace appeared another unforgettable face. She is known today by a nickname given to her by Arthur Evans, La Parisienne. No one knows her real identity. She may have been a priestess, a noblewoman, perhaps even a goddess. Her elaborate hairstyle frames an expressive face with large, dark eyes outlined in black. Her bright red lips curve into the faintest suggestion of a smile. There is confidence in her expression, intelligence, a quiet elegance that feels strangely familiar. Evans believed he reminded her of fashionable women living in Paris during his own lifetime. The nickname remained. Today, La Parisienne has become one of the defining symbols of Minoan civilization. It reminds us that these ancient people were not distant strangers. They laughed, they celebrated, they cared about beauty and personal appearance. In many ways, they were surprisingly human. Throughout the palace, artists used a limited but vibrant palette. Rich reds, deep blues, brilliant whites, warm yellows, bold blacks. These colors created striking contrasts that still appear fresh after thousands of years. The artists also followed interesting conventions. Men were generally painted with reddish-brown skin, reflecting time spent outdoors beneath the Mediterranean sun. Women were usually shown with pale white skin, suggesting that artistic traditions, rather than literal appearance, guided these choices. The same convention appears in ancient Egyptian art, although the Minoans developed an entirely own style. Their figures seem lighter, more graceful, filled with movement rather than rigid formality. Even hairstyles reveal remarkable attention to detail. Long, flowing hair was fashionable for both men and women. Jewelry appears frequently: bracelets, necklaces, decorated belts, layered skirts, finely woven garments. Clothing was not simply practical. It reflected identity, social status, and artistic taste. One detail especially fascinated historians. Unlike many neighboring civilizations, Minoan women appear throughout the palace art, participating openly in religious ceremonies, public festivals, and important cultural events. They are not hidden in the background. They stand confidently beside men. Sometimes they appear to lead processions. Sometimes they occupy the very center of important religious scenes. This unusual prominence eventually inspired debates about the role of women in Minoan society. Were they priestesses, political leaders, queens, or something even more significant? The paintings alone cannot answer these questions, but they suggest a society where women enjoyed remarkable visibility and respect. Another striking feature of Minoan art is what it does not show. There are almost no scenes of great military victories. Few images celebrate kings conquering foreign lands. Unlike Egypt or Assyria, there are no endless rows of defeated prisoners, no terrifying battlefields, no triumphant generals standing over fallen enemies. This absence is extraordinary. Instead of glorifying violence, Minoan artists devoted their talents to depicting festivals, ceremonies, landscapes, wildlife, and graceful human movement. The message seems clear. This was a civilization that valued harmony. Whether that harmony truly reflected everyday life or represented an idealized vision remains impossible to know. Every society presents itself in the best possible light. Yet compared to other Bronze Age civilizations, the difference is unmistakable. Even the palace itself reinforced this peaceful atmosphere. Sunlight poured through open courtyards. Fresh air drifted along wide staircases. Color surrounded nearly every important room. Architecture and art worked together to create an environment that celebrated elegance rather than intimidation. For visitors arriving from distant kingdoms, Knossos must have seemed unlike anything they had ever experienced. It was not simply a palace, it was a living work of art. And yet, among all these joyful images, one powerful symbol appeared again and again. A creature respected, feared, and honored above nearly every other animal: the bull.
its image decorated walls, ceremonial objects, seals, and shrines throughout Crete. To the Minoans, the bull represented far more than physical strength. It stood at the center of one of the most mysterious religious traditions in the ancient world. In the next chapter of our journey, we'll step beyond the palace walls and explore the spiritual beliefs of the Minoans, the enigmatic snake goddess, and the breathtaking ritual that may have inspired the legendary tale of the Minotaur itself.
The more archaeologists uncovered beneath the soil of Crete, the more they realized that the Minoans viewed the world very differently from many other ancient civilizations. Unlike the Egyptians, they left behind no great temples covered with sacred inscriptions. Unlike the Mesopotamians, they left no long religious texts explaining the creation of the universe. Their language still remains undeciphered. Their prayers have fallen silent. Their myths have disappeared. To understand what they believed, historians must rely on the objects they left behind. Small statues, painted frescoes, carved seals, sacred caves, mountain shrines. Together, these quiet discoveries reveal the outline of a spiritual world that was deeply connected to nature. Rather than worshipping inside enormous stone temples, the Minoans often chose places already shaped by the earth itself. High above the island, on lonely mountain peaks, archaeologists have discovered ancient sanctuaries overlooking the sea. People climbed these steep paths carrying small clay offerings, tiny human figures, miniature animals, models of hands, feet, or other body parts. Many historians believe these objects represented prayers for healing, protection, or successful harvests. The mountains themselves were considered sacred. The caves of Crete held equal importance. Hidden beneath the limestone hills, these cool, shadowy chambers became places of worship for centuries. Visitors left pottery, bronze weapons, jewelry, and small figurines deep inside the darkness. For the Minoans, caves may have represented the mysterious heart of the earth, a place where life, death, and rebirth were closely connected. It was a religion that seemed less concerned with conquering nature and more interested in living alongside it. Perhaps the greatest surprise came from the remarkable number of female figures appearing throughout Minoan religious art. Again and again, women stood at the center of sacred ceremonies. They raised their arms toward the heavens. They received offerings. They appeared beside holy symbols and powerful animals. In many scenes, men seemed to play supporting roles. This was highly unusual in the Bronze Age. Arthur Evans became convinced that Minoan religion centered upon a great mother goddess. Whether that conclusion is entirely correct remains debated today. Modern historians are more cautious, yet there is little doubt that women held an unusually prominent place within Minoan religious life. The most famous discovery supporting this idea emerged from a hidden chamber inside the Palace of Knossos. Buried carefully beneath the floor, archaeologists uncovered several extraordinary figurines made from brightly colored faience. Today, they are known around the world as the snake goddesses. One figure immediately captured everyone's imagination. She stands confidently with both arms extended. In each hand, she holds a twisting snake. Another serpent coils around her body. A small feline sits proudly upon her elaborate headdress. Her clothing is unlike anything seen elsewhere in the ancient world. She wears a richly layered skirt decorated with colorful patterns. Her fitted bodice leaves her breasts uncovered, a powerful symbol of fertility and life. Her wide eyes stare forward without fear, calm, confident, unmoving. Who was she? No one truly knows. Perhaps she represented a goddess. Perhaps she was a high priestess participating in an important ceremony. Whatever her identity, her symbolism is unmistakable. The exposed breasts represent nourishment and motherhood. The snakes symbolize renewal. Unlike many animals, snakes shed their skin, appearing almost reborn each time. Across
countless ancient cultures, they became symbols of transformation, healing, and eternal life. The feline resting above her head suggests mastery over the wild world. Together, these symbols portray a powerful female figure closely connected to nature itself. She was not a goddess of war. She was a guardian of life. Yet no creature occupied the Minoan imagination more completely than the bull. Its image appeared everywhere, painted upon palace walls, carved into tiny seal stones, fashioned into magnificent ceremonial drinking cups. Its horns decorated rooftops, shrines, and sacred spaces across the island. These distinctive stone carvings became known as the horns of consecration. To the Minoans, the bull represented strength, vitality, and overwhelming natural power. Unlike later cultures that often sought to dominate dangerous animals, the Minoans seemed fascinated by the challenge of confronting them with courage and skill. This fascination reached its greatest expression in one of archaeology's most famous works of art, the bull-leaping fresco. The painting captures an astonishing moment. A massive charging bull races across the scene with incredible speed. Its body stretches almost as though it is flying above the ground. 3 young athletes surround the animal. At the front, a young woman grips the bull's horns. In the center, a young man performs a breathtaking backward somersault over the bull's back. Behind him, another young woman reaches forward, prepared to help him land safely. The scene is filled with movement, balance, precision. For more than a century, historians have debated exactly what this remarkable artwork represents. Did such performances actually take place? Some modern athletes believe they were possible with specially trained bulls. Others argue the painting combines several stages of a single performance into one image. Still others believe it symbolizes a religious ceremony rather than a literal event. The truth remains uncertain, but one thing is beyond doubt. Bull leaping held enormous cultural importance. It demanded courage, perfect timing, extraordinary athletic ability. The risk must have been immense. One mistake could easily result in serious injury or death. Yet generation after generation appears to have honored this dangerous tradition. It may have represented more than entertainment. Perhaps it symbolized humanity's delicate balance with the forces of nature. Victory achieved not through violence, but through harmony, discipline, and grace. It is here that history and mythology begin to merge. Centuries after the Minoan civilization disappeared, the Greeks remembered only fragments of these ancient traditions. The magnificent palace became the labyrinth. The sacred bull evolved into the terrifying Minotaur. The athletic rituals transformed into stories of human sacrifice. The memory survived, but its meaning changed. The legend of King Minos also reflects echoes of genuine history. The Greeks remembered Crete as the home of a mighty sea king who ruled distant islands. Modern archaeology suggests this memory may preserve a distant reflection of the Minoan naval empire. Even Princess Ariadne's famous thread takes on new meaning. Anyone attempting to navigate the enormous palace at Knossos for the first time could easily become hopelessly lost among its twisting corridors and countless staircases. The famous thread may symbolize nothing more mysterious than finding one's way through an astonishingly complex building. The monster itself may never have existed, but the palace certainly did, and so did the civilization that inspired the legend. The deeper archaeologists explored, the clearer the picture became. Behind every Greek myth stood faint echoes of real people, real buildings, real ceremonies, gradually transformed by centuries of storytelling. The Minoans intended never to become legends. They were ordinary people living extraordinary lives. They built beautiful homes. They worshipped mysterious gods. They celebrated festivals. They crossed dangerous seas. And they created a civilization so remarkable that even after it vanished, the memory of its greatness refused to disappear completely. Its stories simply changed shape. Yet behind the colorful frescoes, peaceful ceremonies, and magnificent palaces stood the true foundation of Minoans.
While the magnificent palaces of Crete impressed everyone who visited them, they were only one part of the Minoans' remarkable success. The true foundation of their civilization was not hidden behind palace walls. It stretched far beyond the island itself, across the endless blue waters of the Mediterranean. The sea was the lifeblood of Minoan society. It connected distant kingdoms. It carried merchants, craftsmen, and explorers. It brought wealth from lands hundreds of miles away. And it transformed the island of Crete into one of the richest civilizations of the Bronze Age. Unlike many ancient kingdoms that expanded by conquering neighboring lands, the Minoans built their influence through ships. Historians often describe their power using an ancient Greek word, thalassocracy. Quite simply, it means rule of the sea. For centuries, the Minoans dominated the waters of the Aegean. Their fleets sailed farther and more frequently than those of almost any other European civilization of their time. Archaeologists have pieced together the appearance of these remarkable ships from frescoes, clay models, and tiny carved seal stones. They were elegant vessels, long and narrow, built from carefully shaped timber. A single tall mast carried a square sail that caught the Mediterranean winds. When the sea became calm, rows of skilled oarsmen powered the ship forward. Their curved hulls allowed them to move quickly across open water while remaining agile enough to enter rocky harbors and narrow coastal passages. To modernize, they appear graceful. To Bronze Age merchants, they represented opportunity. Every voyage carried valuable cargo: large clay jars filled with olive oil, fine wine produced from Cretan vineyards, beautiful painted pottery admired throughout the Mediterranean, bronze tools, jewelry, delicately woven textiles. Every shipment strengthened the island's economy. Yet the ships rarely returned empty. Crete possessed few natural sources of the metals needed to create bronze. Without trade, the civilization could not survive. Copper arrived from Cyprus. Tin came from Anatolia and perhaps even farther away. Gold reached Crete from Egypt. Ivory traveled across deserts before arriving at Mediterranean ports. Precious stones crossed mountains and seas before skilled Minoan craftsmen transformed them into works of art. Trade connected the island to nearly every great civilization of the Eastern Mediterranean. Among all these distant relationships, none proved more important than Egypt. The connection between Crete and the Nile Valley became one of the most fascinating discoveries in modern archaeology. Inside the magnificent tombs of powerful Egyptian officials, colorful wall paintings depict groups of foreign visitors bringing luxurious gifts before the pharaoh. Ancient hieroglyphs identify these visitors as the Khiftu, a name many scholars believe referred to the people of Crete. The artists painted them with striking accuracy. Their long, dark hair, their colorful kilts, their graceful appearance, even the gifts they carried closely resembled genuine Minoan craftsmanship uncovered by archaeologists at Knossos. Elegant metal cups, fine pottery, beautiful ceremonial objects. These Egyptian paintings provide remarkable confirmation that the Minoans were respected across the ancient world. They were not isolated islanders. They were international traders welcomed into one of history's greatest civilizations. The sea also allowed the Minoans to establish settlements beyond Crete itself. One of the most extraordinary examples stood on the island of Thera, known today as Santorini. Its prosperous town of Akrotiri reflected nearly every aspect of Minoan culture. Multi-story houses lined carefully planned streets. Freshwater systems supplied homes. Brilliant frescoes decorated elegant rooms. Merchants prospered. Artists flourished. The town seemed like a smaller version of Knossos itself. Similar settlements appeared across other Aegean islands. Each one strengthened the network connecting Crete with distant markets. These ports acted like stepping stones across the sea. Ships rarely needed to travel long distances without finding safe harbors where they could rest, trade, or repair storm damage. The entire Mediterranean became a web of connected communities. Every successful voyage increased Minoan prosperity. The wealth flowing into Knossos supported artists, architects, craftsmen, priests, and government officials. It funded the construction of magnificent palaces. It supplied workshops with rare materials. It encouraged innovation. Prosperity created confidence, and confidence shaped the very character of Minoan society. Perhaps this explains one of archaeology's greatest mysteries. Why were the Minoan palaces almost completely undefended? Unlike the heavily fortified cities of mainland Greece, Crete's great palaces lacked towering defensive walls. To later civilizations, this seemed almost unbelievable. But perhaps the Minoans simply trusted a different kind of protection: their navy. Any invading army first needed ships powerful enough to cross the sea. Then they had to defeat one of the strongest maritime forces in the Mediterranean. The ocean itself served as the island's first line of defense. Instead of surrounding cities with massive stone walls, the Minoans invested their wealth in fleets capable of protecting trade routes long before enemies ever reached Cretan shores. It was an entirely different philosophy of security, one based upon movement rather than isolation, upon confidence rather than fear. This maritime supremacy shaped every aspect of daily life. Children growing up in Crete would have watched ships arriving almost every day. Foreign merchants spoke unfamiliar languages in busy harbors. Exotic goods filled palace storerooms. Stories from distant lands spread from sailor to sailor. The Minoans became one of history's first truly international societies. Their world stretched far beyond their own coastline. Yet such prosperity carried hidden dangers. The more successful the trading empire became, the more dependent it grew upon the sea. Its economy required safe shipping routes. Its craftsmen depended on imported metals. Its wealth relied upon uninterrupted trade. Its security rested upon its fleet. Everything pointed towards the Mediterranean. As long as the sea remained calm, the civilization flourished. But history has often shown that great strengths can become equally great weaknesses. No kingdom controls nature forever. Far north of Crete lay the beautiful volcanic island of Thera. Its harbors bustled with merchants, its streets echoed with ordinary life. Few suspected that beneath its peaceful landscape, unimaginable forces were slowly gathering. When those forces were finally unleashed, they would not merely destroy a city, they would shake the entire Mediterranean world. The sea that had given the Minoans their greatest power would soon carry something far more terrifying than merchant ships. It would carry disaster itself.
For generations, the Minoans believed the sea was their greatest ally. It carried their ships, protected their island, connected them to the richest kingdoms of the Bronze Age. But nature has a way of reminding every civilization that even the greatest empires remain fragile. About 70 miles north of Crete stood a beautiful island known today as Santorini. In the Bronze Age, its name was Thera. To the Minoans, Thera was more than a distant island. It was one of the brightest jewels in their maritime empire. Its thriving town of Akrotiri overlooked a magnificent harbor where merchant ships arrived from every direction. Elegant, multi-story homes lined carefully planned streets.
Walls were covered with colorful frescoes depicting ships, flowers, monkeys, fishermen, and peaceful island life. Fresh water flowed through advanced plumbing systems. Workshops buzzed with skilled craftsmen. Markets overflowed with imported goods. Life seemed prosperous, secure, almost perfect. But beneath the island rested an enormous volcanic mountain. For centuries it had slept quietly beneath the earth. Its people had no reason to fear it. The mountain had become part of everyday life. No one imagined that one of the most powerful volcanic eruptions in human history was slowly building beneath their feet. The first warnings probably arrived as earthquakes. At first, they may have seemed ordinary. Crete and the surrounding islands experienced earthquakes from time to time. People were accustomed to them. But these tremors became stronger. Walls cracked, storage jars toppled onto stone floors, homes shook violently, animals behaved strangely, the ground itself no longer felt trustworthy. The people of Akrotiri made a remarkable decision. Instead of waiting, many fled. Archaeologists have uncovered overturned furniture, broken pottery, and abandoned homes throughout the city. Yet something extraordinary is missing: human skeletons. Unlike Pompeii, where thousands perished beneath volcanic ash, Akrotiri has yielded almost no victims. This suggests that the inhabitants escaped before the final catastrophe. They packed what they could carry, boarded their ships, or simply fled inland. No one knows where they went, but they understood that something terrible was coming. Then, one unimaginable day, the volcano awakened. The eruption began with unimaginable violence. The mountain exploded with a force many times greater than the eruption of Krakatoa in 1883. A deafening roar echoed across the Aegean Sea. The explosion could likely be heard hundreds of miles away. A gigantic column of ash, volcanic rock, and superheated gas blasted high into the atmosphere. Some scientists estimate that it rose more than 20 miles into the sky. The peaceful blue heavens vanished. Daylight slowly faded into an eerie twilight. The sun became a dim orange circle behind thick clouds of ash. Across the Mediterranean Sea, people looked upward in fear. Darkness spread where bright skies had existed only hours before. Ash began to fall from above like gray snow. It settled onto rooftops, covered fields, blanketed forests, filled rivers and streams. Breathing became difficult. The world seemed to disappear beneath an endless cloud. At Akrotiri, buildings vanished beneath layer after layer of volcanic ash. Entire streets disappeared. Homes remained standing, but were entombed forever beneath the falling debris. Ironically, this terrible disaster preserved the city with astonishing detail. Wooden furniture left perfect impressions. Colorful frescoes survived inside sealed rooms. Everyday objects remained exactly where their owners had left them. Today, Akrotiri offers archaeologists one of the most complete snapshots of Bronze Age life ever discovered. But the volcano had not finished. The greatest destruction was still to come. Deep beneath the island, the enormous magma chamber had emptied. Unable to support its own weight, the center of Thera suddenly collapsed inward. An entire section of the island disappeared into the sea. The collapse displaced an unimaginable volume of water. Within moments, gigantic tsunami waves began racing outward across the Mediterranean. The sea itself became a weapon. On the northern coast of Crete, ordinary people may have witnessed a terrifying sight. First, the ocean suddenly retreated. The shoreline stretched farther than anyone had ever seen. Fishing boats rested awkwardly upon the exposed seabed. Fish flopped helplessly across wet sand. For a brief, unnatural moment, everything became strangely quiet. Then came the sound, a distant roar growing louder every second. Not thunder, not wind, water. An enormous wall of seawater rushed toward the island with unstoppable force. Entire harbors disappeared beneath the waves. Merchant ships anchored peacefully only moments earlier were smashed together like pieces of driftwood. Warehouses collapsed. Coastal villages vanished beneath churning water. The Minoan fleet, the very foundation of their wealth and security, suffered catastrophic destruction. Many ships never sailed again. Others were carried inland before being shattered against rocks and buildings. The sea that had protected Crete for centuries had suddenly become their greatest enemy. Even after the waves retreated, the nightmare continued. Ash drifted across parts of eastern Crete. Fields became coated with fine volcanic dust. Harvests failed. Water supplies became contaminated. Livestock struggled to survive. For farmers already shaken by earthquakes and tsunamis, the future suddenly seemed uncertain. The skies remained hazy for weeks, perhaps even months. Sunlight weakened, temperatures dropped. Across the eastern Mediterranean, crops failed in many regions. Trade slowed dramatically. Fear spread from kingdom to kingdom. To the Minoans, whose religion celebrated the balance of nature, this catastrophe must have seemed almost impossible to understand. The earth had shaken, the sea had risen, the sky had gone dark. Every element of their world appeared to have turned against them. Surely many believed the gods themselves were angry. Yet despite the unimaginable destruction, the Minoan civilization did not disappear overnight. Knossos still stood. Many inland communities survived. The great palaces remained occupied. Life continued. But something essential had changed. Their powerful navy had been crippled. Trade networks had fractured. Agriculture had suffered. The confidence that had defined Minoan society for centuries was beginning to fade. The eruption of Thera was not the final chapter of the Minoans. It was the beginning of their long decline, a slow twilight that would unfold over the next century. And as Crete struggled to recover from nature's fury, another civilization across the sea was quietly growing stronger. A civilization unlike the peaceful Minoans. A civilization built upon warriors, fortresses, and conquest. The Mycenaeans were coming.
For many years, historians believed the eruption of Thera had destroyed the Minoan civilization in a single catastrophic day. It was an appealing story. A mighty empire, wiped from history by one of nature's greatest disasters. But archaeology tells a far more complicated and far more human story. The volcano did not end the Minoans overnight. Instead, it wounded them, and those wounds would never fully heal. When archaeologists examined sites across Crete, they noticed something unexpected. Along the northern coastline, evidence of destruction was unmistakable. Entire settlements had been battered by enormous tsunami waves. Broken walls, shattered pottery, and thick layers of marine debris testified to the incredible force of the sea. At places like Palace, the devastation was severe. Yet farther inland, the picture looked very different. The magnificent Palace of Knossos remained standing. Many buildings showed signs of earthquake damage, but they had not been buried beneath volcanic ash. The great halls still echoed with daily activity. Priests continued their ceremonies. Craftsmen returned to their workshops. Officials once again recorded shipments of grain, olive oil, and wine. Life continued. The civilization had survived. But survival was not the same as recovery. The first great blow came to the economy. For centuries, the wealth of Crete had depended upon maritime trade. Merchant fleets carried luxury goods across the Mediterranean. They returned with copper, tin, gold, ivory, and precious stones. After the eruption, much of that network collapsed. Many harbors had been destroyed. Ships lay broken along the coast. Trade routes became uncertain. Merchants who once sailed confidently across the Aegean now faced damaged ports, dangerous waters, and shrinking markets. Without constant trade, the palace economy began to weaken. Craftsmen struggled to obtain raw materials. Bronze production slowed. Luxury goods became increasingly difficult to manufacture. The flow of wealth that had sustained Minoan society for centuries gradually diminished. Agriculture also suffered. Volcanic ash drifting across eastern Crete damaged farmland. Harvests became unreliable. Even regions untouched by ash experienced economic hardship because trading networks had weakened. Food shortages likely appeared in some communities. Prices rose. Families struggled. The prosperity that had once defined Minoan life slowly disappeared. Yet perhaps the deepest wounds could not be measured in damaged buildings or lost trade. They were psychological. Imagine living in a civilization that believed nature reflected divine order. Then, without warning, the earth shakes violently. The sea rises and destroys entire towns. The sky grows black in the middle of the day. Ash falls like snow. The sun disappears behind strange clouds. To modern scientists, these are geological events. To Bronze Age people, they must have seemed like unmistakable signs that the gods themselves had withdrawn their favor. Confidence gave way to uncertainty. Faith may have been shaken. The authority of priests and rulers could no longer appear absolute. A civilization that had once seemed invincible now understood its own vulnerability. This weakening of Minoan power did not go unnoticed. Across the Aegean Sea, another civilization had been growing steadily stronger, the Mycenaeans of mainland Greece. Unlike the peaceful Minoans, the Mycenaeans lived in a far more militarized world. Their cities reflected constant preparation for war. Massive stone walls surrounded every important settlement. Great gates protected palace entrances. Watchtowers overlooked surrounding valleys. Weapons filled royal tombs. Their kings measured success through conquest as much as commerce. They admired the wealth of Crete. They respected its craftsmen, but they also recognized opportunity. As the Minoan fleet weakened and trade networks declined, the Mycenaeans expanded their own influence throughout the Aegean. Their ships appeared in waters once dominated by Crete. Their merchants reached markets that had previously belonged to the Minoans. Little by little, the balance of power shifted. The Minoans had once ruled the sea. Now they struggled merely to maintain their position. For nearly a century after the eruption, the civilization endured. Its people adapted. They rebuilt damaged communities. Trade slowly resumed in some regions. Art continued. Religious ceremonies survived. Life did not simply stop. But the confidence of earlier generations had faded. The great age of expansion was over. Instead of leading the Mediterranean, the Minoans increasingly fought to preserve what remained. Eventually, sometime around 1450 BC, a dramatic transformation occurred. Many of Crete's major palaces, including Phaistos, Mallia, and Zakros, were destroyed. Exactly what caused this destruction remains one of archaeology's greatest debates. Some historians suggest internal conflict. Others believe new earthquakes played a role. Many point towards invasion by the Mycenaeans. Whatever the cause, only one great palace continued operating, Knossos. Yet even Knossos had changed. Something remarkable began appearing inside its administrative records. The writing was no longer purely Minoan. A new script appeared. Today, historians call it Linear B. Unlike the older Minoan script known as Linear A, Linear B was eventually deciphered in the 20th century. Its language surprised everyone. It was an early form of Greek. This discovery transformed our understanding of Bronze Age history. It proved that Greek-speaking Mycenaeans had taken control of Knossos. The palace still functioned, officials still kept careful records, but the rulers were no longer Minoan. A new civilization had inherited the island. Yet these conquerors did not erase everything. They admired Minoan achievements. They copied their art, adopted many of their religious symbols, employed their skilled craftsmen. The civilization of Crete could not disappear completely. It was gradually absorbed into the growing Mycenaean world. Even as political power changed hands, the beauty of Minoan culture continued influencing those who followed. The Minoans had lost their empire, but they had not lost their legacy.
That legacy would survive through myths, through architecture, through art, and through memories that later Greeks would transform into legends. Yet one final mystery remained. What ultimately destroyed the Palace of Knossos itself? How did the last great center of Europe's first civilization finally come to an end? That answer would arrive not through earthquake or volcano, but through fire.
For several generations after the Mycenaeans took control of Crete, life at Knossos continued. The palace still stood proudly above the surrounding countryside. Its storerooms remained active. Scribes continued recording inventories on clay tablets. Craftsmen repaired frescoes. Religious ceremonies carried on inside ancient shrines. To an outside visitor, the palace might still have appeared as magnificent as ever. But beneath the surface, everything had changed. The rulers now spoke an early form of Greek. The administration followed Mycenaean traditions. The civilization that had built Knossos had become a memory, even while its greatest palace remained alive. For roughly 75 years, the palace continued to function under its new masters. Then, sometime around 1375 BC, disaster struck once again. This time, there was no volcano, no tsunami, no dark cloud spreading across the sky. Instead, fire. A massive blaze swept through the enormous palace complex. The flames spread rapidly across wooden beams, staircases, roofs, and upper floors. Within hours, one of Europe's greatest architectural masterpieces became an inferno. The elegant red columns collapsed, magnificent frescoes blackened beneath intense heat. Ceilings crashed into ceremonial halls. Smoke filled corridors that had once echoed with music, celebration, and daily life. By the time the fire finally died, the Palace of Knossos had been reduced to a smoking ruin. Unlike earlier disasters, this destruction proved permanent. The palace was never rebuilt. Even today, historians cannot say with certainty what caused the fire. Some believe angry local populations may have rebelled against Mycenaean rule. Others suggest rival Mycenaean kingdoms attacked Knossos to eliminate a competing center of power. A few scholars even consider the possibility of accidental fire spreading through the massive wooden structure. The truth remains unknown. Yet history often preserves strange ironies. The very flames that destroyed the palace also protected one of archaeology's greatest treasures. Inside administrative offices, hundreds of clay tablets lay stacked on wooden shelves. Originally, these tablets had simply been dried in the sun. They were never intended to survive for thousands of years. Normally, rain would eventually have dissolved them, but the intense heat of the fire baked the clay as hard as pottery. The palace perished, its records survived. More than 3,000 years later, archaeologists would recover these remarkable documents from beneath the ruins. Although they contained no epic stories or royal biographies, they offered an extraordinary glimpse into everyday life. Lists of livestock, inventories of olive oil, records of grain, names of workers, religious offerings, taxes, the ordinary paperwork of a Bronze Age government. These humble documents became priceless historical evidence. In the 20th century, the brilliant architect and amateur linguist Michael Ventris finally succeeded in deciphering the script known as Linear B. His breakthrough stunned the academic world. The language was Greek, not classical Greek, but an early ancestor spoken centuries before Homer. The discovery proved that by the palace's final years, Knossos had indeed been ruled by Mycenaean Greeks. Yet the older script, Linear A, remains unread to this very day. Its symbols still guard the true voice of the Minoan people. We can admire their art, walk through their palaces, study their tools, but we still cannot hear their own words. Their language remains one of archaeology's greatest unsolved mysteries.
Another mysterious object continues to challenge scholars. Discovered at the Palace of Knossos, it is known simply as the Knossos disc. Roughly 6 inches across, both sides of the disc are covered with a spiral of carefully stamped symbols. Unlike ordinary writing, each sign was pressed into the clay using carved stamps. In a sense, it represents one of humanity's earliest examples of movable type printing. Its meaning remains completely unknown. No one knows what language it records. No one knows what message it contains. It stands as a silent reminder of how much has been lost. After the destruction of Knossos, Crete slowly faded from the center of Mediterranean history. Small communities continued living among the ruins. Farmers cultivated nearby fields. Fishermen sailed familiar waters, but the magnificent palace civilization was gone. Meanwhile, the Mycenaeans dominated mainland Greece. Centuries later, they too would disappear during the Great Bronze Age collapse. The Mediterranean entered a long period of uncertainty. Writing vanished from Greece, cities declined, trade weakened. History itself entered what scholars now call the Greek Dark Age. Yet something remarkable survived: memory. Stories passed from generation to generation. The mighty sea king named Minos, the confusing palace remembered as the labyrinth, the terrifying Minotaur, the brilliant inventor Daedalus, the clever princess Ariadne. These legends preserved faint echoes of real events long after the civilization itself had vanished. By the time Homer composed his great epic centuries later, the Minoans had already become creatures of myth. The Greeks no longer remembered them as historical people. Instead, they became heroes, monsters, kings.
Today, if you travel to the island of Crete and walk through the ruins of Knossos, it is difficult to imagine that this peaceful place was once the center of Europe's first great civilization. The warm Mediterranean sun shines across weathered stone walls. Olive trees sway gently in the breeze. Birds sing where thousands of people once lived and worked. Visitors wander through ancient corridors that have stood silent for more than 3,000 years. Yet the palace you see today is unlike most archaeological sites. When Sir Arthur Evans uncovered Knossos at the beginning of the 20th century, he faced a difficult decision. Many of the fragile walls, staircases, and columns were slowly collapsing after centuries beneath the earth. If nothing was done, much of the palace would simply disappear. So Evans chose an approach that remains controversial even today. Rather than leaving only broken foundations, he carefully reconstructed portions of the palace using reinforced concrete, restoring the famous red columns, rebuilding staircases, and placing replicas of the original frescoes where they had once stood. Some modern archaeologists argue that these restorations went too far. They believe an excavation should preserve only authentic remains. Others believe Evans made the right decision. Without his work, millions of visitors might never have understood the incredible scale and beauty of Knossos. Whether one agrees with his methods or not, his vision transformed the site into one of the world's most recognizable archaeological landmarks. But the palace tells only part of the story. To truly understand the Minoans, visitors must also explore the Heraclean Archaeological Museum, where the civilization's greatest treasures are preserved. There, behind carefully protected glass, stand the original snake goddess figurines, the graceful cupbearer fresco, the elegant La Parisienne, the playful dolphin fresco, beautiful gold jewelry, delicate pottery, tiny carved seal stones, and countless objects that once belonged to ordinary people whose names history has forgotten. Together, these artifacts reveal a civilization that was remarkably sophisticated, creative, and surprisingly modern in spirit. Even after more than a century of excavation, however, the Minoans continue to guard many of their greatest secrets. We still cannot read Linear A, Without understanding their language, we cannot know what they called themselves. We do not know the names of their kings. We cannot read their prayers. We cannot understand their poems, their laws, or the stories they told their children. Their own voices remain locked away inside symbols that no one has yet been able to decipher. This silence makes the Minoans unique. Few ancient civilizations are both so well preserved and yet so mysterious. We know how they built. We know what they traded. We know what they painted. But we still do not know exactly what they believed or even what language they spoke. Perhaps that mystery is one reason why the Minoans continue to fascinate historians around the world. Every new discovery raises new questions. Every excavation uncovers another clue. Every generation brings fresh ideas that reshape our understanding of this extraordinary civilization. Looking back across 4,000 years, it becomes clear that the importance of the Minoans reaches far beyond the island of Crete. They introduced Europe to advanced urban planning. They developed complex administrative systems. They mastered long-distance maritime trade. They created art that celebrated nature instead of war. They engineered sophisticated drainage and plumbing systems centuries ahead of their time. Most importantly, they laid the cultural foundations upon which later Greek civilization would grow. The Mycenaeans inherited many of their ideas. The Greeks preserved echoes of their memory through myth, and the modern world rediscovered them through archaeology. The legend of King Minos, the labyrinth, the Minotaur, Daedalus, Ariadne, these stories were never entirely fiction. Behind every myth stood a forgotten civilization whose achievements were so extraordinary that later generations transformed history into legend. That may be the Minoans' greatest legacy. They remind us that myths often preserve fragments of truth. Sometimes, buried beneath centuries of storytelling, lies the memory of real people and real places waiting patiently to be rediscovered. The Palace of Knossos was once believed to exist only in imagination. Today, visitors can walk through its halls. The labyrinth became an archaeological site. The kingdom of Minos became history, and the civilization that vanished from memory now stands once again among the greatest achievements of the ancient world. Perhaps the most remarkable lesson of the Minoans is not how they disappeared, but how they returned. For over 3,000 years, their cities slept beneath layers of earth. Their language fell silent. Their names were forgotten. Yet the stones remained, the frescoes waited, the artifacts endured. And when archaeologists finally brushed away the dust of centuries, an entire civilization stepped back into the light. History is full of lost worlds. Some are remembered through books, others through monuments. The Minoans survived in something even more powerful: wonder. Every painted wall, every carved seal, every ancient staircase invites us to ask another question. Who were these remarkable people? How much more remains hidden beneath the earth? And what other forgotten civilizations are still waiting for someone to uncover their stories? Perhaps that is why the story of the Minoans continued to captivate us today. Not simply because they were Europe's first great civilization, but because they remind us that history is never truly finished. There are always new discoveries to make, new mysteries to solve, and new voices from the distant past waiting patiently to be heard. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the Bronze Age. I hope this exploration of the Minoan civilization has transported you to a world of magnificent palaces, fearless sailors, vibrant frescoes, sacred rituals, and enduring mysteries. As the Mediterranean sunset slowly fades over the island of Crete, the echoes of this remarkable civilization still linger among the ancient stones. And perhaps, somewhere beneath those weathered ruins, the final secrets of the Minoans are still waiting to be discovered.